Alrighty, so we all are waiting for that certain announcement that is gonna made, and once that certain announcement does made, I'll actually would be doing a short instead of doing a video about it because I'm actually gonna be ground hopping later this afternoon and into the evening. Today we're gonna do an emotion index, looking at all 29 fan base and how they feel about their team, and I think it's only fitting for me to do it now, not just because of the fact that this is actually the May Emotion Index, but also this is kind of like the halfway point emotion index with most of these teams are almost at the halfway point of the season. I mean, it's hard to believe that we're already halfway in the season, and there's definitely some teams that you can say that they are definitely very happy about their team. They can't wait for the playoffs again, and there are some teams that are thinking, yeah, life is definitely not good. But one thing I will say is that this season I feel like pretty much every single team is still in it, and this is of course a lot to do with the added two playoff spot, but also it's just very tight right now between both of the conference. So we start off with New England, and I'm actually going to go geographically from east to west in terms of the order. So every motion index, I do it differently in terms of the order. This time I'm going to do geographically from east to west. So there's going to be some teams that is going to be in the same city that I'll mention twice because that's how I'm going to do it. And we start off with New England, and yeah, for Revs, I think they're pretty happy. Their fans are saying that things are looking good. Yes, I know they have been struggling in the last couple of games, but again, a lot of that has to do with the fact that they've been dealing with so many injuries that isn't in their team. I mean, they got a couple of guys that still coming back from the IR. They also lost one of their key attacking player in Dylan Burrow for the rest of the season, and I'm gonna be interested to see whether or not if the refs are gonna be active in the summer and in the secondary transfer window because when you look at this Rams team and especially how they have been playing, I feel like they are one or two pieces away from competing. I mean, this is a team that early in the season it definitely showed promise that it can contend in the Eastern Conference. That is going on with the team. I think they might be looking in the summer to trying to add on to that and try to compete with the likes of Cincinnati, Philly, and even Nashville in the East. Because right now, I think if you look at the Eastern Conference, the three teams that I think you can say that are clearly going to be the favorites of winning or actually representing the Eastern Conference and MLS Cup is those three teams, and New England's just below that category. Then we go to Montreal. I mean, for Montreal, I think they're right here where, it could be better. It could be worse because, they've been kind of a little inconsistent lately, but at least that's a whole lot better than what happened in the beginning of the season where their fans are thinking, yeah, this is the rebuild build season. And especially, I think if they do win the Canadian Championship tomorrow, I think that's what their fans will care about because, this is a team that, they will definitely fight for playoffs, but I think when you look at this team, it's definitely is a team that it's no surprise that they're not doing very well because of the talent that they sold. But I think the most surprising thing is that they've been able to bounce back relatively well. And I think Hernan Losada, the hot seat that he was sitting in the beginning of the season, I think it's definitely cooled off a lot. And it also kind of helps the fact that when you, of course, are so good at home, you're going to get a chance to at least still be in the playoff conversation. Then we go to Toronto, and for TFC, yeah, things are definitely not going well for TFC. Again, we it's been a rough month for TFC, and really a rough month for the last couple of months and this season alone because there's just so many bickering that is going on. And although they did get a surprising 2-1 win against DC to kind of just kind of paper over the cracks in terms of the situation that's going on behind the scenes. Behind the scenes, it's kind of an ugly scene. I mean, right now they have a lot of things that they need to address, and that I still think that this is a team that they are just one or two injury away from just completely collapsing like they did during May. So yeah, I don't think their fans are pretty happy about the situation that they're going on, and again, a lot of their fans want Bob Bradley to be fired, and knowing the fact that we just saw Phil Neville, of course, being fired. I think Bob Bradley could be next because as much as I said Greg Vanny might be the next one, Chris Klein just got fired, and Greg Vanny just got promoted as a sporting director. And I don't see the Galaxy are just going to just fire Greg Vanny after they just announced him as the interim sporting director as of now. Then we go to NYCFC. Yeah, it is an absolute free fall for NYCFC. I mean, it's getting to a point where the well, I wouldn't say difference, but similarity between the fan base for TFC and NYCFC fan is that at least they are alongside with the Galaxy are the only team that have their supporter actually they criticize their players on the pitch. I mean, we saw the TFC situation against Montreal where their supporter group throw the megaphone over Mark Anthony K, and then NYCFC pretty much had something similar. Well, it wasn't as extreme, but they they were having words with James Sands in terms of criticizing his performance and also just the team's performance in general. But yeah, it's an absolute free fall right now for NYCFC. 7 games without a win. The bad roll form that they've been having is carrying it at home. And although yes, I know in terms of their home form, lately they have been playing some of the toughest team in the East. You know, they need that still. You know, if you're going to be a team that is looking to trying to turn their season around, you got to win these home games, even if you're facing the tough some of these toughest team. And again, this team just doesn't seem like have any confidence whatsoever right now. Then we go to the New York Red Bulls, and not much is better on the other side of the Hudson River. As you know, for the Red Bulls, I think you can clearly see that new head coaching boost with Troy Lesnar is definitely starting to wear off to a point where yeah, the last game was arguably the worst game under Troy Lesnar where they look flat against Orlando City, and I think that's just kind of how it is. I feel like we're seeing the end of a long playoff streak that the Red Bulls currently own. I mean, it's kind of interesting that a year after the Sounders for the first time missed the playoffs for the first time in their history, the Red Bulls could be doing the same thing. Well, actually, it won't be that that is that they would actually be having the active longest playoff streak come to an end this season, and it just feels like it's going to be. And especially you know, the other thing that I'll say about that game against Orlando, not only they lost that one, but they lost Lewis Morgan again to injuries, and we don't know how long that injuries is going to last. We know he's a key piece to this attacking haze. So you know the fact that they saw him come back for the first time, and only for him to now go back to the injury reserve, yeah, that's rough. And again, this Red Bulls team, it's pretty clear that the issue with this team is they just don't have any good attacking uh, pieces on this team. And even when at times they have looked promising going forward on the attacking end, they just don't have that. And it's been a very frustrating season for Red Bulls fans. And that you know I know Gerhard Stuver, of course, is an easy target because of the whole situation that he handled with Dante Van Zier. But I think there's definitely a bigger problems besides that, and we'll see whether they can address that before the season ends. Then we go to the Philadelphia Union, and yeah, I mean the Union, it's the cream of the top crop. Again, this team, I feel like they're playing with vengeance ever since they lost that CCL semifinal match against LAFC. That it's almost like this team not only is solely focused on MLS, but they want to get back to where they were last season. They want to get back there. They want to finish the job done. And although some of these games that the Union have played are just kind of games that we saw like last season where they just became a buzzsaw and just ran over everybody, they're playing the Jim Curran style of soccer where they're a tough team to try to score against, and because of their rock solid defense, and they have weapons going for on the attack to score those goals. I mean, it's a very balanced team. It's a team that, as I said, you know, between them and FC Cincinnati, and in some extents Nashville, they're the teams to beat in the Eastern Conference. Then we go to DC. You know, for DC, I think it's kind of right here where you know after that good run that they had back in April, late April into early May, things have started kind of going back to the inconsistent route for Wayne Rooney's side. I mean, they have drawn some games, they have lost some games, and they also have won some games. And I feel like that's just going to be how it is for the rest of the season. This is a team that, as I said, beginning of the season, it's a boom and bust team, and I think the fans can realize that there are definitely some boom and bust kind of players out there that when they're at their best, they can definitely beat anyone. But then when they are not at their best, especially on the road, that's where they're not going to do well. But again, I think the expectation for their fans is the fact that they want this team to make it to playoffs and see how it goes, because it's a very interesting situation that DC is in right now, because this team clearly needs a rebuild, but they're not admitting it because the way that they built this team, and especially under the stewardship of Wayne Rooney, it feels like they're trying to make one last run, even though they don't have the pieces to do so. Then we go to Charlotte. I think things are definitely looking good for Charlotte, and consider the fans were definitely calling for Christian Latanzio's head in the beginning of the season. I haven't heard as much of that recently. Well, there are still some, but there's no doubt that Charlotte has been playing much better in the last month or so, and this is not just at home, but also on the road too, picking up role points, and have looked really decent, and we'll see whether or not if that, of course, is continued, because they're right on the line right now in terms of making the playoffs, and that's kind of what they needed to do. And what's also interesting is that they're doing this without Enzo Capetti. I mean, Capetti, I don't want to say he's been a flop of a signing, because when you have a new player coming into a new league, it does takes time to integrate. But we're getting to that part of the season where he's got to do something. I mean, he hasn't really lived up to the signings that Charlotte, of course, has, and we'll see whether if he can do that for the second half of the season. Then we go to Atlanta. I mean, for Atlanta, I think they're right in the middle, where again, they're just it feels like it's night and day with Atlanta United. And I will also say with Atlanta, they have played some of the most entertaining soccer in the last couple of games. Like, if you want to watch an entertaining game, tune into Atlanta United games, because those games, I know it's not like the Tata Martino day where they were a free scoring team, but they're kind of a team that just kind of reminds me of the Quakes last season, where there's just some crazy things that has happened, and that it's not an Atlanta United game if it was not for or if it's not an Atlanta United game if there isn't a late goal that is either score or concede against Atlanta, because that feels like that's kind of the case for the past both times. But yeah, I mean, for Atlanta, it is pretty clear that they've definitely played much better. I mean, I would say that in early May, they would probably be right down here in terms of panic and free fall, because of how bad they have fallen ever since they all got off to a good start. It looks like this was a repeat of last year, and the fans even calling for Gonzalo Pineda heads, but looks like that's kind of started to cool a little bit. I mean, the pressure is still on Gonzalo Pineda and even their GM Carlos Bocaneer. But of course, the resort are started to pan out. Yakimakis is kind of like the second coming of Joseph Martinez. He's literally the most important player and the guy that is carrying the low in terms of the goal scoring. And even Thiago Mata, who had his struggled when Atlanta was kind of having a bad, and he started to kind of pick it up again once again. So overall, again, it could be better for Atlanta, but it could have been a lot worse considering what we saw in early May for this team. Then we go to Orlando, and again, Orlando, they're the definition of right here down in the middle of could be better, it could be worse, because that's just the story of Orlando City. I mean, their fans, I know they'll say that they should be right around here, where they're kind of panicking because of how they've been playing, but really, I think it's just frustration because of the inconsistency that is shown, and this is why after that 3-0 win against the Red Bulls. I mean, if you're as any Orlando City fans, I mean, they're happy that their team is able to win on the road, but how much is that due to the fact that in the next game they're gonna just once again kind of tease us that things have turned around, only for the next game they came out flat again. I mean, that's just been the story for Orlando City this season. There's just no sorts of consistency, and that could be as frustrating as watching a team that is not doing well this year, where you expect things are going to be better, and then in the very next game things are just not doing well. Though I will say that the attack, at least in the last game, definitely looks some promise, and especially while their more important player Facu Torres has started to perform, and even Ajan Caro was on a hot streak at that point. I mean, when Ajan Caro is on a hot streak, things are starting to turn around for this Orlando City attack. But again, the key question is, can they find some consistency? Like, their fans are begging for this team to find some consistency. They don't care if the attack is still underperforming, which is the kind of case. If they just can find some consistency, I think their fans are just going to be ecstatic about that. Then we go to Miami. So obviously, I know the big story about Miami this today is the whole Messi situation. And again, when that announcement does made, I will definitely do a short talk about it, and maybe even do a video tomorrow, looking at all of these well-known player that has come to MLS, because we have come a long way since David Beckham comes into this league, and all these big names that have come into this league, and see how they perform. But I'm still gonna reiterate what I said before about these players. It's not like what we see a couple of years ago, where when MLS was still in a 2.0 kind of stage, where they could be difference maker. Now, obviously, I do think Messi could be that exception, and that he could definitely get this team to make it to the playoffs. But in terms of really getting this team to be competing, and all of a sudden considered to be the upper echelon of the Eastern Conference, no chance. I think that there is still so much problem that is going on with this team. I mean, Messi can only do so much. Like, I think Messi will definitely fix the issue in terms of the attack, and I think Leo Campana and even Joseph Martinez, when he comes back, they would really enjoy seeing Messi there, because they'll he'll definitely provides the service that they've clearly been lacking during this losing run. But still, there is still a big question in terms of the midfield. Like, the midfield right now, both of their star midfielder is done for the season for injury. And when you have that kind of problem, I mean, that's tough to recover. And also in the defensive end, I mean, if it wasn't for Drake Callender, that is just playing out of his mind lately, I mean, I gotta feel bad for Drake Callender, because I think he's easily the most underrated goalkeeper in this league, but he's just not getting too much attention because of the fact that this team is on a losing run. Like, if he was on a team that is winning, you could say that he's definitely in contention for goalkeeper of the year, because he's just been bailing out that back line that just repeatedly hung him out to dry this season. So yeah, again, I think if Messi does come, well, it's not if, it's when now, because of the announcement. At least fix the attack in a bit, where they will look more lethal. But it will definitely not fix in terms of the issue that they have in the midfield and on the defensive front, which is just not great. I mean, it's the team. There's a reason why they're sitting at the bottom of the Eastern Conference right now. Nothing seems to be going right with this team, both on the attack, the midfield, and also especially on the defensive front. Then we go to Nashville, and Nashville is kind of the opposite, where again Nashville is the cream off the crop. I mean, Hani Mukhtar is just performing at an MVP level like last season, and again, it's been a while since we have players that have got back-to-back MVP awards. In fact, I don't think that I don't remember the last time that, of course, happened. It must be happening in the early 2010s, but Hani Mukhtar is definitely making that case. I mean, he is just I will say that, unlike last season where Mukhtar kind of single-handedly carried this team, at least he's getting more of the support for a cast. I mean, the guys like Fafa Pico and Jacob Schaffer has really picked up the slack in terms of the goal scoring too. But I think any Nashville fans can agree that Hani Mukhtar is the star of this team. He's kind of like the irreplaceable player that, he can be a different difference maker. So, something similar to what I think Miami fans are hoping with Messi once he does come into this team, where he can change the attack. But yeah, I mean, Hani Mukhtar, he's just a god right now. I mean, the way that he's been playing in this last month or so, you can't tell me how he cannot win MVP for the second year in a row. He is just an absolute bona fide five-star, and it's just such an enjoyable time whenever I watch Nashville will play, and see him perform on the field. Then we go to Columbus. Yeah, I mean, for Columbus, it could be better, but it could be worse. The could be better part is the roll form. Again, that's been a problem for this team, and it's been a problem really for the past couple of years. And unfortunately, Wilfred Nancy doesn't seem like he solved that issue. But the could be worse is the fact that at least they could be struggling in terms of performing at home, and that I think the issue for Columbus right now is the fact that I can understand why Wilfred Nancy played this exciting brand of soccer, and Columbus is also another one of those teams where, in terms of watchability, which I think I should definitely do a video talk about watchability ranking out of all these teams this season. Columbus is definitely going to be right near the top. They're a very fun team to watch. They play some very good attacking soccer, but the issue is that sometimes they expose themselves way too much going for on the attack, and leave themselves at the back with just so much gas for opposition to 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 exploit. I mean, I feel like every time if Columbus play against a good transitional team, they're bound to lose because of it. And I think other teams are figuring that out too. They may be playing that kind of style of play, and this is to where Wilfred Nancy is going to have to do. I mean, if you're a Crew fan, again, it could be better in terms of how they perform. You love the amazing good soccer they've been playing, but you're probably frustrated because of the amount of goals that they conceded, and the fact that some might even be frustrated with the fact that Wilfred Nancy need to really back off in terms of just the attacking structure. Like, you can't just put too many men forward and leave yourself just way exposed at the back, which has been an issue for Columbus this season. Then we get to FC Cincinnati. They're interstate rival. Yeah, they're right up there again. I might as well in the beginning of the video put Philly, Nashville, and FC Cincinnati at the cream of the top because they are. I mean, they're a team that is right at the top. The cream of the top in the Eastern Conference, arguably the cream of the top in MLS right now as the three teams that are definitely heavy favorites of winning MLS Cup. Like, I think when you also look at this season between the East and the West, and we always have this the discussion of which conference is the better. Feel like the East is definitely better this season, especially at the top. Because when you look at the West right now, the team that is at the top is St. Louis City, and I know St. Louis City has had an incredible expansion season, something like a Cinderella expansion season. But eventually, the old saying about Cinderella, the clock is gonna struck midnight, and I feel like that could be the case for St. Louis. And then Seattle in second place are having problem in terms of goal scoring, and even LAFC, again, they've been playing very good, but again, how is that CCL final loss is going to compel, and are they going to suffer some similar to what we saw with Seattle, where they just absolutely crumble and have just so many games to play for and fixture congestion? Are they going to be worn out? So yeah, in the West, there's definitely a big question in terms of those teams at the top. You can't say that in the Eastern Conference. I mean, these are teams that are geared to win MLS Cups, and that Cincinnati is definitely one of those team. Again, this is a team that what's interesting is that for a while we have said that this team is still haven't reached its best, and I think that could be the case. But the thing about Cincinnati and why they could be a supporter shield winning team, they can win in different ways. Like, they can grind out result like what we saw against Chicago. They can just play anyone out of the park like what we seen before. And this is also a good road team too. So when you have all that recipe, it's no doubt that Cincinnati is just an absolute juggernaut not right now. And Pat Nolan and their fans are hoping that this might be the year. Not only they win the supporter shield, but can actually challenge for MLS Cup. And so try to say that a couple of years ago about this team, and every Cincinnati fans will think you're absolutely mad. But moving on to Chicago. Yeah, for Chicago, things are definitely not going well, and especially after last night's defeat in the hands of the Houston Dynamo. Well, yeah, I mean that. I feel like that was a competition where you can clearly see the Fire was taking it very seriously, because you could say that maybe is that was probably the deepest run the Fire has had in the Open Cup in quite some while, and they absolutely laid an egg against the Houston Dynamo in that one. So yeah, again, things are not going well for this team. And like what I said about the Red Bulls, it feels like their new head coach boost is starting to wear away. Frank Kopas, he did well, at least in the first couple of games, but that's just the thing about a new coach boost. It's just there's going to be that highs, but then the issue is not going to go away on the previous regime, and we're starting to seeing it again for this Fire side. I mean, once again, they're back to at point really playing games that they should win, but they just somehow blew it in the most Chicago Fire esque kind of way, and that's just kind of the purgatory that Fire fans unfortunately has to deal with for the past decade or so, and it feels like it's going to be the same thing again this season. Then we go to Minnesota, as that's the first thing I'll talk about in the West, and for the Loons, whew, this is a tough one. I mean, things are definitely looking good, mainly because Reynoso is back, and just by the limited sample side of Reynoso coming off the bench in that game against TFC and do his magic, just to show you that there is a lot of optimism. And the other optimism I think for Minnesota is the fact that they are definitely one of the team I think are right up there in terms of underperforming their expectancy. Go. And I know I usually don't like to talk about expectancy kind of stats, but when you look at the loons and the way that they've been playing on the attacking front, they should be much better in terms of of the expected see goals, and that they have definitely looked more lively on the attack in the last couple of games compared to the beginning of the season. But unfortunately, in the most Minnesota way, it just hasn't been shown on the pitch. But again, having Reynoso back is going to really raise the ceiling of this team. I mean, I've said many times before, and I'll say it again. This team clearly need Reynoso. This team is built around Reynoso, and with the way that he's back with this team, there is definitely a lot of optimism that this team is going to be better and the goals are going to come. Now, that being said, I want to see that eventually comes to fruition because as much as I know there's been times where they have been the better team and have really won the expected see battle. This is where I go back to why I don't talk about expecting see stats too much. Yes, those numbers are good to see in terms of analytics, but it doesn't help you in terms of the point totals whatsoever, and that's what's the issue right now with this Minnesota team, and that we'll see whether eventually things are going to fall where the goals are gonna come because you can't just simply score one goal every single game and expect to win, and that's something that this team needs to do. I mean, it's been a while since Minnesota has scored more than one goals in a game, and that hopefully with the with Reynoso eventually comes back to full fitness. I mean, I know he's not full fitness right now, and that's what makes it even more amazing. The fact that in that game when he come off the bench, even with a Reynoso that is 70% fit, he looked like a guy that is just head and shoulder above better than all the attackers that we had. And again, that just shows you how he's just such an irreplaceable piece. And hopefully, once he does get back to 100% fitness, we're going to see a Minnesota team like we've seen before start to really blossom on the attack again. Because if they can't figure out the attack, I think this team can definitely rise up in the standings. Because we know in defense, they're a very good defensive team, minus maybe a couple of laps of concentration moment, but overall they're a very good defensive team. It's just the attack that's been a problem for this team. Then we go to St. Louis. I mean, yeah, for St. Louis, things are definitely looking good for this team. Again, the thing about St. Louis is that I think no one can doubt that they are. This is just a fluke. Even though I know there's going to be some haters that once again will say, "Oh, look at those back pass gift that they of course are given." I mean, yes, they have had some luck in terms of it, but I just believe now it's due to the structure that they of course run and that of course fourth opponent to make some mistake, uncharacteristic mistake because of the press and the energy drink soccer that Bradley Carnell implement. And I think what's also encouraging for St. Louis in the last couple of games is the fact that I think when they were struggling, a big reason why is because Jacques Loss is not there. And that now that, and he still actually is not there, he's still working his way back from injury. But the fact that they're still winning without him, just to show you that I think Bradley Carnell has definitely made some adjustment, and that was what we were wondering. Like it's great to see that this team has had a great start to the season, but when they were struggling, can Bradley Carnell can change up it a little bit and maybe make the necessary adjustment to get themselves back to good form. And we're seeing exactly that with the St. Louis City sign. Again, full credit has to be with Bradley Carnell. I think if St. Louis is going to finish near the top of the standings, I mean, there's no doubt you got to say he's the coach of the year. Like, I mean, I know what's going on in the East with what Pat Nolan has done to Cincinnati and what Gary Smith has done to Nashville, and even in some extent, Jim Kern. He's been the coach of the year for the past couple of seasons. But the job that Bradley Kern now has done to St. Louis, this is something that is even better than what we saw with Atlanta and LAFC when they came into the league. This is going to be a team that is going to smash that record in terms of the most points by an expansion team, and they're playing great soccer in in the point of doing that too. So yeah, I mean St. Louis, there's no doubt that they're basically, I would say, almost at the cream of the crop, and definitely the cream of the crop in the West, and a team that needs to really take it seriously if they haven't done so. Then we go to Sporting KC. Imagine I put them this high up in the standings, just a month ago. Imagine Sporting KC fans feel like their things are definitely looking good, and it is. I mean, when you look at this past month, what month it makes when how bad the start of the season has been, and then they finally got that win against Seattle in the beginning of May, and everything changes. And again, a lot of that I will also say is because Sporting KC has started to get some of their most important pieces back. I mean, on the attack, if you minus Johnny Russell, they pretty much has their full complement of the attack, and the defense definitely have looked much better. And even an unsung hero in Kendall McIntosh stepping in to the spot that Tim Melia has had. I mentioned before. I think McIntosh, he might be the guy that could be the hair of Tim Melia because of how well he's been performing ever since he's come in. But overall, I know it's pretty clear that those Peter Vermees kind of out whisper has definitely started to quiet down to a point where, yeah, Sporting KC looking like the Sporting KC that we expect back. And again, that's what happened when you, of course, win games. Like it was pretty clear that this team, when they were on that bad start to the season, they would just absolutely stake pin both on the attack and just there was just no confidence whatsoever. When you win games, that can definitely re-energize the team, and it's no surprise that that's kind of the case. And the fans are starting to be happy, be again, and start to show up again when there was so much Tedman with their head coach and also even in some extent their front office doing that bad start to the season. Then we go to FC Dallas. Yeah, I mean for Dallas it could be better and it could be worse. Dallas was a very interesting team to figure it out because on paper this is I feel like this is a team that is kind of like what we see in the past couple of years where they're a good team, but I don't think it's going to be a team that is enough to make a run in the playoffs. Especially, I would say I wouldn't say they're mediocre, but they're just kind of above mediocre to a point where I don't think any good team is going to be scared of Dallas if they do have to face them in the playoffs. And again, part of that has to do with the fact that the attack has not been performing at a rate that they. Oh, I mean, besides Jesus Ferreira, that's been scoring the goals. There's been nobody on this team that can be that clinical finisher, and that again, it feels like it's a very kind of meh kind of team in my opinion, even where they are sitting in the standings. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if Dallas fans are going to be happy of seeing that because again, that the thing that elude Dallas for the last couple of years is can they finally get past the first or second round of the playoffs? And judging by how they've been playing so far this season, it doesn't feel like that's going to be the case. Then we go to Houston. For the Dynamo, yeah, I think things are definitely looking good, and especially after that big road win against the Fire. That was probably the best that the Houston Dynamo has played on the road in a very long time against the Chicago Fire in the U.S. Open Cup. But yeah, I mean, this is definitely a team that they've been proving a lot of people wrong. They actually proved me wrong with the way that I think Ben Olsen has done an incredible job. Now imagine me saying that in the beginning of the season. That would be just absolutely insane. But yeah, I mean this is a team that's been winning their home games, which is kind of what they've been rely on doing those good Dynamo teams back in the mid 2010s. And even though they are still struggling on the road this season, um, I we'll see whether that 4-1 win against the Fire on the road might change that. But overall, if you're Dynamo fans, I mean the rebuild is definitely trending in the right direction, and that again, this is a team that definitely have been performing very well to a point where if they do make it to the playoffs, it's going to consider to be met expectation or even exceed expectation because of the squad that they had. And that again, many people wrote the Dynamo off in the beginning of the season mainly because of the Ben Olsen hiring, and also when you look at on paper the squad still lacks that quality, and it's just been completely proven wrong this season. Then we go to Austin. So to finish up the trifecta of Texas team, yeah, for Austin, I mean, I would say it's kind of right near here where you know what I said in the review. It's like one step forward and two step back for this Austin team, and I think that's what their fans are feeling too. Where anytime when this team makes some progress and look like things were gonna turn around, and especially even getting Gray UC back into the team, and then they lost RSL at home. I mean that's got to be frustrating, and that I think that's just gonna be kind of how it is with this team. And again, it kind of also hurts the fact that they are dealing with injuries, and I think last season it's kind of now been proven that I wouldn't say it was a fluke season, but it was a season where they clearly didn't address what was the biggest need of this team, and that of course is they need depth. Like they don't have a lot of depth. Once some of their more important player goes down, especially the back line that is just getting completely wiped out because of injuries this season. Yeah, they're really thing right now. But again, a lot of that also has to do on the attacking front too. You know, the attack has definitely not lived up to expectation. It's been a huge regression in terms of the attack too. And again, some has to do with injuries. You know, losing Dre UC for a while, that is a big part of it. But besides Jarzy's artist that finally started to find his form, and Rigoni, I mean, he's been improving, but the stats are definitely not showing that. It's been a very underwhelming season for this Austin team, and I think it's just going to be the way it is this season, where I think this team will battle to make it to the playoffs, but they're definitely not going to be like what we saw last season, making a deep run in the playoffs. Then we go to Colorado. Yeah, it is an absolute free fall right now for the Colorado Rapids, and even in panic mode. Where remember all the good things we said about the Rapids, back in April and even in the beginning of May, where Robin Fraser has kind of started to fix the defense. Yeah, so much for that, and I will say that the defense is still looking decent. But again, the issue with this team is that they just have no goal scoring threat whatsoever. Like I think when you look at the time when they were still doing well, I think that it started to take a toll on the defense. When like if you're a defender for the team, it has to be 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 high level and anxiety. The fact that, well, if you concede one goal, this is over. Yeah, you know your attack is not going to pick up the slack, and that kind of toll has really started to take on this team to a point where, yeah, I mean, it's just it's been a bad season for the Colorado Rapids. I think their fans can admit that, and their fans continue to voice their frustration toward the front office, and especially for Stan Kroenke, to a point where it's pretty where it's gone so bad that the league is now even stepping up in terms of trying to improve their training ground that is badly needs some renovation. But unfortunately, because this is Stan Kroenke, you know he's not gonna be caring about that. I mean, between Stan Kroenke and John Fisher, these are probably right now the two of the worst owner right now in MLS, and it's unfortunate one of those owner is literally one of the team that I root for. So as a Quakes fan, I can understand the frustration Rapids fan can feel about this team, and just it feels like this whole penny pinching and this whole money ball kind of ways that they've been doing in the last couple of years is starting to fall apart. Then we go to RSL. Yeah, I mean, for RSL, it could be better. It could be worse. Now, there was a rumor today that it looks like Chicharango could potentially coming back to MLS. And of all places that he might go, it might be Real Salt Lake. Now, if they get Chicharango there, oh boy, this team is that's gonna be a great improvement of this team, because I think that's been what they're missing in this team. They've just been missing that number nine. They don't really have that guy that can score the goals. I mean, if you're still starting Rubio Rubin game in and game out. And I know Rubio Rubin finally broke his curse of not scoring for a very long time. Yeah, you have some serious problem. And again, I think for this RSL team, it's been very inconsistent. I mean, there's been some good performance, there's been some bad performance, and I think that's just the definition of me putting them in the middle. And if you're a fan of this team, I mean, that's got to be frustrating thing too, because you can see that there's been times where they've been playing well, but then there's times where they just look completely flat. That is and that also dropping those points at home. They've been dropping a lot of points at home. Now, again, part of that has to do. Part of that is the reason why they're still in a good spot, is because they've actually have won a couple of road games, and road has been always been a problem for RSL that in the past couple of years. But this season they've been a much better road team. But again, it doesn't help when you of course drop those home points, and again the inconsistency of this team is definitely there to a point where if they can get Chicho Arango, that will definitely fix the big issue that they have on the attacking end. Then we go to LAFC. Speaking of Chicho Arango, and now talk about his former team. I mean, this is hard because I'm still gonna say that things are looking good for this team because of where they are in the standings. Obviously, I know it's still fresh in LAFC fans' minds about that devastating loss that they suffer against Leon in the second leg and in the CCL final, once again falling once again. But if you look at where they are in the standings, they're still looking good. I mean, and especially with the way that they still have a lot of games in hand. They can definitely get themselves back at the top of the standings. And just based on how LAFC have played so far in league play, you can't say that this team is not going to potentially get themselves back at the top of the Western Conference. Now, I will also say that we said that about Seattle last season. So I think LAFC is definitely in a much better spot than Seattle. In fact, I think the position that LAFC in the reason why they're in much better position compared to Seattle is because even if they don't win those games in hand, which they have a lot of them, they're still going to be in the top, near the top of the standings. The issue is the fact that will this toll the toll that they have in CCL, will it come to be a factor, and especially just again they have to make up so many games, and not to mention they still have to play these league cups game. It's going to take a toll of a team, and as much as I know this team is very deep, and LAFC has some very good depth pieces on this team, there is that concern, the fact that even it's going to really test the depth of this team, because I know for sure Steve Chernow can't start his team regularly week in and week out and start the best 11. So just to see how LAFC is going to do. Will they gonna overcome that usual talk about how if you go deep in the CCL, you're going to have to pay that tax of that, but we'll see whether or not if that is going to be the case. By the way, I mentioned CCL. That might be the last time I'll mention that in terms of the CONCACAF Premier club competition, but because they just rebranded to the CONCACAF Champions Cup, and actually I think they've gone back to their own name too, because before they rebranded to the CONCACAF Champions League, it was called the CONCACAF Champions Cup. So they're going back to their roots at least, and I'll definitely talk about the new format that they have, which is kind of very similar to the current one that they have in the news of the week episode, um, just a bit. But moving on to the LA Galaxy. Yeah, I mean things are still not going well for the Galaxy, but I think the big thing that Galaxy fans are celebrating is the fact that they finally got the wishes, and finally got pretty much the big tumor of the cancer being removed from this team, and then of course is Chris Klein being fired for this team. So yeah, things are definitely looking much better because of it. And although I do question having Greg Vanny as the guy that kind of control everything from the coaching and also managing the team. I question whether that's a good idea. At least they finally got their wishes, and the fans are going to be returning to the stadium, and especially the supporter groups are going to return to the stadium. That's just got to be a big help for this team, and especially for the players too. Because if you're a player of the team, it has to suck the fact that basically playing it in mostly empty stadium, and your team is definitely not really supporting the team, rather than just kind of think about all the field situation and trying to get the president to be removed, which rightfully so. But now that they don't have that distraction anymore, we'll see whether or not the Galaxy can make a bit of a run. Then we go to the Quakes. For the Quakes, I would say they're kind of right here, where again it could be better, it could be worse. The could be better part is the amount of points that they've been blowing in this season. Although the last two games they have definitely done much better job in terms of it, and it's kind of a miracle too, because in the last two games, they kind of play very similar to how they've been playing on the road. Just kind of hang on for dear life on the road, and somehow the both of those results they're able to get points. And also a lot of that has to do with Danielle just really even though it's still a limited sample size, he might be the best goalkeeper I've seen that have wear a Quakes jersey since David Bingham was there with this team all the way back in 2016 and even in 2015. But again, that the thing could be better, is the fact that there's really no depth. The depth pieces of this team is absolutely awful, and of course the attack is definitely a huge issue for this team too. But the could be worse is the fact that at least in the last two games they've been able to pick up those reserves, and they're still exceed expectations of what I think of them this season. Again, I think if you had told me that this team would be in fifth in the standings right now in the middle part of the season, I would absolutely be ecstatic. And I'm still is. I think the other thing that I think has been very encouraging seeing this team besides the fact that Daniel might be a solidified goalkeeper for this team is the fact that the defense in somewhat has kind of improve. I mean, there are times where it has been bad, especially the last couple of games, but it's definitely been improved. This is not a team that just give up goals at wills like what we seen in the last couple of seasons. So yeah, that's definitely an encouraging sign, and I think Luchi Gonzalez has definitely uh implement more stability with this team. I think it was pretty clear that the issue for the Quakes for the past couple of years is under Mateus Almeida he just it was getting completely off the rail in terms of the instability with the teams and the way that it's been played. At least for the Quakes, they have looked more like a normal MLS team. And sometimes I've said this before, and I'll say it again. As much as I know, for the last couple of seasons, neutrals would really love to tune into Quakes game because they play some of the craziest style of soccer that I think anyone can imagine. Sometimes stability is a better thing, and that doesn't mean I enjoy watching it. I mean, as much as it was fun watching how the Quakes play and some of the games that just were very high scoring and just kind of unpredictable, it was taking a toll in terms of it. It's kind of like riding a roller coaster where it's fun to ride that fun roller coaster in Six Flags for a bit, but if you ride it like 4 or 5 or even 34 times in a span of just 2 hours, it gets old and it just gets to a point where it's not even fun anymore. I want to get off that ride, and that's kind of what I felt about the Quakes under Almeida doing his last couple of years, and that I think Luchi Gonzalez has definitely changed the culture in terms of to be more of a more bring in more stability in terms of the tactics wise, and it's basically showing that this team has definitely look like a team that isn't as crazy as what we've seen in the past couple years. Now, in terms of watchability, it has definitely hindered the watchability. They're not really a fun team watch as what we've seen before. But honestly, I don't care about that. As long as if it's getting resort, which is what the Quakes are getting, I'll be happy with that. Then we got the Timbers, and for Portland, yeah, things are definitely not going well. Pretty clear that the Cascadia Cup kind of boost that they got back in April is now gone, and that this team once again struggling to score goals. And I think what's even more alarming for the Timbers is the fact that they have some of their best attacking pieces back now. The likes of Evander and even Frank Boley is back, and they're still not scoring goals right now. And that's got to be a huge red flag for this Timbers size, and that unless they can figure that out, again, this after that win against the Sounders when they went on the usual kind of reward whenever you win a Cascadia Derby, people thought that maybe things have started to change, but it doesn't seem like that's the case. It feels like that was maybe just the paper over the cracks, and that this team is now back to where they were in the beginning of the season, which is a team that just struggled to score enough goals. And on the defensive front, there's been some liability on the defensive front too. Then we go to Seattle. It's kind of the same thing. For Seattle, and it's crazy to put Seattle kind of this low in the emotion index, but I think their fans can agree that things are not going well for this team, even where they are. Like the Sounders fans will say, don't let that standing distract you. The fact that there is some major problem with the Sounders team, and like the Timbers, it's the same thing. Goal scoring has been a huge issue, and again, I think with the loss of Christian Rodon, it really they hindered this attack. I mean, I didn't know that he was the guy that kind of held the glue to this attack, but that's kind of is the case. And also, they have had some injuries issue on the attacking front too. So, yeah, hopefully once they do get those pieces back, we'll see whether they can get themselves back to where they were in the beginning of the season. I mean, remember the beginning of the season where they were hint to be the team to beat in the West. They have came a long way from that. So So yeah, we'll see whether they can do so, and also fix that home form too. I mean, it's crazy to say that the Sounders have not won a home game in over a month like right now. Like that's something that this team has always been good, but right now teams are going to Lumen Field, and that fear factor is no longer good there. Teams are getting points at will against the Sounders team at when they're playing on the road, and that's something I didn't think I would even say. Even last year, with the way that they weren't playing very well, there was still a team that was looking really good at home. This season, it feels off from them. Then we go to Vancouver, and for Benny Sartini team, yeah, their things are definitely looking good. I mean, yes, there's been times where they haven't played well, but for the most part, I think things are definitely looking good because of the way that the attack has definitely performed very well. I mean, when you look at some of the games that they had where they when they're firing all cylinder, they are a fun team to watch. Like what we saw against the Dynamo, and even in some extent to what we saw with Montreal early this season when their attack was firing on all cylinders. This is a very fun team to watch, and not to mention another chance to win a trophy in the Canadian Championship, trying to make it back-to-back years of winning the Canadian Championship after they only won it like once prior to last year. I mean, Whitecaps fans are definitely very optimistic of the direction that this team is heading in this season. But there you have it. That is pretty much it for the emotion index and looking at every single team and how their fans feel about their team as we hit the halfway point of the season. Let me know in the comments below what do you think of this video, and as always, let me know in the comments below if I rank some of these teams a little bit too high or rank these teams a little bit too low. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys do like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.